Now you can either go ahead and open all 5 of these images inside Photoshop if you so desire, or if you decide you just want to process these images the way they are and come back to them later, then you can click on the Save Images button, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Now, when I click on this button, it's going to bring up a dialog box here that's asking me where I want to save them. I'm going to go ahead and save these files in the same location. Notice that I can go ahead and convert these images to DNG files, to digital negative files, which is Adobe's universal CameraRAW format. Or I could convert them to a more standard format, something like, let's just say JPEG. I'll just go ahead and convert these to JPEG files. And I can set a quality. I might as well turn this up to maximum. And if I wanted to change the document names, I sure could. For example, I could change these files to say DJ, and then I could go ahead and add a 1-digit serial number. And I'll go ahead and add an underscore right here. And then I'm going to click the Save button in order to save out all of these images. Now notice as this is working, Photoshop tells me what the status is, that I'm now down to 4 files remaining. I can even click on that little link to see which files are processing and which are still going. And now I can go ahead and switch back to Photoshop. My images are still processing back there inside the bridge, but because I invoked the CameraRAW dialog box from the bridge, Photoshop is entirely available and allows me to work inside of it as much as I like. So I could be processing tens of images, hundreds of images, whatever. It might slow things down a little bit in the background, but I could still get work done inside of Photoshop CS2. Now I'm going to go ahead and return to the bridge, and I'm going to close down the CameraRAW dialog box by clicking the Done button here. And let's see what new images appear inside of this folder. First of all, we're seeing all of the raw images, the CRW images, processed. They're showing me the new settings applied to those thumbnails. And I'm also seeing the images that have been saved to the JPEG format. So if I just go ahead and double click on one of these images, I'll open it up inside Photoshop with those exact color settings applied and with the crop setting applied as well. So with these JPEG images, obviously the settings are hard applied. These settings have been applied before the image was saved. Back in the original RAW images, which you should be sure to keep, those are parametric settings that are merely applied to the file and previewed inside that thumbnail. Now, there's one other automation function inside of both the bridge and inside of Photoshop CS2 that allows you to switch from one file format to another. So in the very same way that we were able to save from a CRW image to a JPEG image, you can save from a non-CameraRAW format to JPEG, Photoshop, TIFF as well. I'm going to go back to this bridge folder, to the original folder that we were at the outset of these lessons. And I'm going to select the thumbnails that are associated with the flower images, the various flower images here, including this Cover Tecton PSD image, which is a layered file. Then I'm going to go up to the Tools menu. I'm going to choose Photoshop, and I'm going to choose Image Processor. If you only have Photoshop, then your version of the bridge will show the image processor directly underneath the Tools menu. In any case, I'm going to go ahead and choose that command. It's going to take me into Photoshop. It's going to go ahead and call the command inside of Photoshop. It's going to ask me where I want to save these images. I'll go ahead and save them in the same folder. I'll save them out to, let's say, PSD images this time, as well as JPEGs. So you can save multiple versions of these files in different formats if you want to. I'll raise that quality setting to 10. I'll go ahead and convert this image to the sRGB profile. That way, I can email these images off to other folks, and I have a realistic expectation that the images will look right in sRGB, even if folks don't have Photoshop. I'll also resize these images down inside the JPEG format to a maximum of 700 pixels wide or tall. I won't resize the PSD images. I'll leave maximum compatibility on. Down here at the bottom of the dialog box, I'll make sure my ICC profiles are turned on so that there's little color profiles inside of both the JPEG and the PSD documents. And then when I'm done, I'll go ahead and click on the Run button. And Photoshop will go ahead and process every single one of these images. Now, this specific command has been turned over to Photoshop CS2, which means I can't be working inside Photoshop CS2 while this progress bar appears on screen. But I could go ahead and switch back to the bridge and work inside the bridge if I wanted to, which means I could even go back and reprocess a CameraRAW image directly inside the bridge while Photoshop is at work in the background. So the fact that you have these two applications completely running independently of each other gives you so much flexibility, especially where batch processing is concerned. If you haven't already guessed, Photoshop CS2 is a deep and immensely powerful application, and I've only shown you the briefest introduction to what it can do. In the meantime, best of luck with Adobe Photoshop CS2. For total training, this is Deke McClellan saying, see ya!